the DC world. In the DCEU, yes, things are mostly not going their way. But in the television world, a gentleman by the name of Greg Berlanti has 4 shows, possibly a 5th show, coming to the CW. And those shows are doing phenomenal. Those shows are the exact opposite of what the movies are going through. And it's, to me, I'd love to say it's sad, but I'm so entertained by all 4 shows that are on the CW in the Arrowverse, that I have nothing bad to say about any of it. Now, prior to last week, my return, I started watching Legends of Tomorrow. I watched the first season on Netflix, and then I caught myself up with watching on the CW apps and stuff like that, of catching up on season 2 of Legends of Tomorrow. I have to say, that show is wildly entertaining. Now, I was interested by it when Chelsea and I watched the 4-episode crossover with The Flash, Arrow, Supergirl, and Legends of Tomorrow. I watched the 4-part crossover, and each of the shows were able to bring, except for Supergirl, because Supergirl to me was an episode of Supergirl, and at the very end, it was the crossover. Meanwhile, The Flash, Arrow, and Legends of Tomorrow were all crossover episodes. So, I mean, that was a little, but, that was a little, yeah, it's more the Barryverse. It's the Flashverse. Yeah, no, I agree with you, Seattle. That, yeah, it's not really Arrowverse anymore because Barry's just gone nuts with changing the time. Each of the episodes brought their own little panache to their own little theme of what you can to the entire universe that DC has created in their television world. That being said, the Flash and Supergirl bring their humor, and the quick wit with Cisco and Supergirl, because like the quick wit of Barry, Cisco, and Supergirl and all that. Those 2 shows really have the similar type of comedy. Those shows were able to bring that in. Arrow, you had its bruteness, you had its dark sort of, usual Oliver Queen doubting everyone and needing a little extra time to trust people because of things that happened on the island in the past. And then Legends of Tomorrow, you had more of your action, where you have this cast of misfits and people who don't want to be called heroes and villains and stuff like that are all just mixed together, yet somehow can make a bad situation great. And it's a very fine line to do a crossover, but it's an even finer line to do a 4-part crossover and actually have it come out pretty well. So because of all of these different because of all of his different interactions and all that kind of stuff, I got interested in finally watching Legends of Tomorrow. I gotta say, it's very entertaining. Brandon Routh as the Atom, Katie Lotz as the White Canary. You have Firestorm's there, Dominic Purcell, even in the second season without his partner. Everybody interacts so poorly, but interacts so well that the shows are very entertaining. And now that they have this time traveling thing down, it's easier to get some of the themes that are happening in The Flash now with all the time traveling. Barry Allen's been a very naughty boy when it comes to time travel, and a lot of the things that they're explaining, I can see maybe some people getting a little bit lost. But if you watch Legends of Tomorrow, a lot of what they're explaining there with their time travel can be translated into what's going on with Barry, his time traveling. So those, and then again, a lot of the villains are, intertwined, like Malcolm Merlin from Arrow, who's Ra's al Ghul for a little while, Damien Dark, who is the main villain in the fourth season of Arrow, and then Reverse Flash from the first season of Flash was, are now the Legion of Doom in Legends of Tomorrow. So it's great to see all of them, and every once in a while it's not a crossover episode, but it's like Oliver Queen, was in episode 1 of season 2 of Legends of Tomorrow. He wasn't necessarily the Arrow, but he was, it wasn't a crossover episode, but it was more of just him interacting in a way that needs to be because they were in Star City. So the shows, after the 4-part crossover, all 4 of them were renewed in what seemed like relative ease. And there's even they're finishing up production of another crossover between Supergirl and the Flash, which I have a feeling if these shows keep getting renewed as they are, we're going to see more crossovers between the Flash and Supergirl, just because Grant Gustin and Melissa Benoist get along so well on screen. Supergirl and the Flash get along really well on screen that we're going to see a lot more crossovers with them. This next crossover is a musical crossover. Now, I know Melissa Benoist was in Glee prior to being in Supergirl. She was also in another show, Wife, but she was, I know her from Glee, so I know she's got some pipes on her. So it'll be great to hear her sing again, and interesting to see how they make it, a musical out of that one. But they did it for Scrubs, they did it for How I Met Your Mother. I mean, they're both sitcoms, but hey, a musical is a musical is a musical is a musical. Anyone can do a musical. And I think they already did it with Supernatural, which means that dramas could be musicals. Why not? Musicals could be drama, right? Right? Les Mis is not a comedy, right? Yeah, I thought so.
The time has come.
Thank you very much, Crit Camp, for the host.
66.
Thank you. Thank you, Crit. So yeah, it's, their crossovers are phenomenal. Supergirl is in its second season, and its first season on the CW. It was on CBS prior. You really don't see a lot of, you don't notice that much of a difference in the production value. Yeah, I'm sure it didn't. You probably were auto-hosting someone else like you always do. Oh, from Texas. That's right. You're at the Super Bowl. Lucky you. Enjoy the ball in the net thing type deal. The Supergirl is doing really well, and I know they lost Kat, the character, played Ally McBeal. I forget what. Oh, Callista Flockhart. Losing Callista Flockhart was a was a bit of a blow, but it seems like they're doing well without her. She is missed in some scenarios, however, it's not as noticeable as I thought it would be. It's noticeable enough where you're just like, oh, I miss Kat, but it's not so bad where you're sitting there like, God, I wish she was in every episode. It's not that at all. I mean, they're finding other ways to push Kara to do things that she's not comfortable with, and to push her to make her a better person in other ways. Plus, without having Callista Flockhart there, you do, like, it does help develop the other characters. Like Kara's sister, is Kara's sister, is learning things about herself. Win and yes, he did announce that there would be no streams this week because um, you know, uh, Win and James, are building this new character, building this new renegade or whatever his name is, to help Supergirl out with fighting crime and all that stuff. There's the new addition of Mon-El, who is someone who's like Krypton, but not quite, and forth and whatever. So there's that character as well. So there's room for character development where I feel as if Callista Flockhart's character was mainly there just to push Kara. Which was great for the first season because it gave her something to work off of. But for this second season, there's enough emotions going around for Kara to deal with. Loving, falling in love possibly with Mon-El, wanting to care for everyone and wanting to protect everyone, yet do her job at the same time. There's a lot of, other emotions that Kara can now explore, considering that she's not being pushed as much as with Kat. And her new editor is doing that whole pushing thing as it is. So, so there's that behind it as well. Not saying that Kat was just a bad person or a bad woman, a bad person in Kara's life. She definitely wasn't. And she was actually one of the driving forces behind that show, making it a very successful woman lead driven show, to push in a mostly male dominated area of comic book TV shows and comic book movies. And I mean, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is pushing the female lead with May, with Daisy, and with Barbara. Arrow has it with Felicity, and Legends of Tomorrow putting Sarah Lance in charge after Rip Hunter doesn't make it, and there's a spoiler alert too. But there's this helps push that female lead into the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And it'll help with movies such as Wonder Woman. It'll help with Captain Marvel when Marvel makes that movie. It's definitely paving the way for a strong female-led show, which will then translate well with the movies and so on and so forth. That being said, there's another DC TV show coming out within actually a couple weeks called Powerless, and it's going to be on Fox. And it's called Powerless, and it's being headed by Vanessa Hudgens. Powerless is meant to be a TV show of things that I always wondered about, which was what do normal people do when being attacked or when being being like in the midst of a fight between Superman and Zod or Superman and Batman. Like, what do normal people do, or how do normal people react to these type things? I mean, we always see the newscasting in the movies and the TV shows of like, Superman fought General Zod and destroyed half of Metropolis. Gotham is in dire needs again as the Joker and Batman got into a fight over at Gotham Museum. Like, you see all those news headlines, but what about, like, how do people react to that? And that's what Powerless is going to do. It's going to take place in Metropolis. It's going to take place, and they're going to mention Superman and Batman. However, slight problem is they're in a different universe. So now we have the DC Extended Universe with Ben Affleck, Henry Cavill, Jason Momoa, Gal Gadot, Ezra Miller, you know, being all the superheroes that are over there. Then we have the Arrowverse or the Flashverse, with Grant Gustin, Stephen Amell, Katie Lotz, you know, Melissa Benoist. They're all in different universes. Now we have a third DC universe in Powerless with Vanessa Hudgens, with Danny Pudi, from Community. So now there's a third universe that we have to keep our eyes on with DC. Why not connect them in some way? Like, you barely connected with Supergirl and the interdimensional thing with the Flash and Grant Gustin, but now, you know, now you have a third completely separate universe that nobody else can get to. I mean, yes, Superman and Batman will be mentioned in it because they're going to be the superheroes and the heroes that people need to, need to pay attention to and all that stuff. But it's none of the people that we know. It's not even the Superman that we see in Supergirl. It's going to be a third casting of Superman. Do you know how ridiculous that is? Do you know how much more work that is to hire another person to be Superman? Just take the Superman from the Arrowverse and the Flashverse, have him come in for once every couple episodes, and you're done. That's ridiculous. So now you're talking about another. So now I got it. I'm gonna have one of those rooms with all the yarn going across it. And I'm sorry, Chelsea, but it's gonna be your yarn. Like all over the place, trying to keep up with all the DCTV shows. And the problem is, Powerless is probably gonna be amazing, which means it's gonna be multi-seasonal, which means I'm gonna have to keep up with it because it's me, and I watch all this stuff, and I love all this stuff. And it's just gonna, gonna kill me. That's what it's gonna do. It's gonna absolutely kill me. So, it's just very, it seems as though people have great ideas over there. DC, and someone tells the wrong person, and then they go into development, and then as soon as other people's come back to it, they're just like, oh yeah, we accidentally, and it sucks. I'm sorry. So yeah, so that that's my rant on DC. Berlanti Productions is doing a fantastic job over at the CW with the 4 shows of Flash, Arrow, Supergirl, and Legends of Tomorrow. I don't know if anyone's watched the latest episode or last week's episode of Legends of Tomorrow, but last week's episode they had George Lucas. And what if Star Wars and Indiana Jones was never made? And I gotta say, they did a really good job of doing that. So if you don't watch Legends of Tomorrow as a episode by episode, like following the overcasting story arc, definitely watch last week's episode because everything with George Lucas was just great. I'm not going to say it was perfect because there could be some flaws in it, but it was just entertaining. And entertaining the thought of what if Star Wars was never made? I probably would not be sitting here. What if Indiana Jones was never made? I probably would not respect history as much. I don't know. But if Star Wars was never made, I probably wouldn't be sitting here. And therefore we would not have episodes of the new Nerd in Town. Just something to think about, people. Something to think about. Moving right along. Now, people have been talking about Marvel for a while now.